we're going to go and talk to Christopher Daniels. Chris.
Hello.
Hey. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
Put the headsets on.
Oh, here we go.
Okay. See if the levels are good, because it's kind of distracting.
Okay. I don't hear anything.
Can you hear me?
There we go.
Okay. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
What have you been doing since the last time we talked, as far as where you've been wrestling and things like that?
Since the last time we talked, I did the Battle at the Bob show for ECWA, for Jim Kettner, where I wrestled Reckless Youth. And I've been doing some shows for APW, tagging with Mike Modest and wrestling Donovan Morgan.
What was your thoughts on the tag team matches? We heard a lot about the tag match with Thompson and LeGrand on the weekend.
Right.
What were your feelings of that match?
I thought it was great. I had a good time. It was good that Mike Modest came back from his knee injury. And Robert Thompson and Boyce LeGrand are one of the best tag teams in the sport right now. And just to go on there and put 33 minutes in the ring in front of a good crowd like that, I had a great time.
Any plans to go back to Japan?
It's in the works. I spoke to them and told them I was available. Whether they want me or not, it's up to them.
Any talks about maybe for a different company besides Michinoku?
I sent my tapes over to Wale Yamaguchi in the interest of All Japan. It just depends now on whether they want to get a new face over in All Japan or not.
It's kind of interesting with the All Japan, because I think one of the things with the Japanese is the foreigners that have gone, it's always the same ones time after time, and I think it's probably time for them to freshen things up.
Yeah, I'd love to be one of the new faces over there. I don't know how much All Japan. I'm not really familiar with All Japan's and their use of the cruiserweight, so I couldn't tell you if I would have a place in All Japan or not, but I'd certainly love to get a shot to go over there.
Would you rather go as Christopher Daniels or Curryman again?
I think if I were to go to All Japan, I would have to go as Christopher Daniels, only because Curryman is a Michinoku product. But either way, I'd be happy with.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had any thoughts as far as, or any talks with WWF or even WCW lately?
Yeah, I keep both my options open. I've been talking to Terry Taylor and Ricky Santana, and I've also been talking to Bruce Pritchard and Kevin Kelly. And I think right now the consensus is, as soon as a spot were to open up, that magic spot or that magic gimmick, I think I would have an opportunity. It's just a matter of where it comes up first.
Who's coming out there today from the WWF? Is it Pritchard?
I'm not sure if anyone from the WWF is going to be here in terms of a management position. The reason that the Hardys are here today is because they'll be shooting a commercial tomorrow in Big Bear. So I think it was just a good situation schedule-wise for the Hardys to be here for UPW.
Mm-hmm.
But usually when someone comes out, it's usually Bruce Pritchard.
What do you think as far as the wrestlers here that people aren't so familiar with? Who are like the best guys in UPW?
Well, first of all, the best guy that came straight out of UPW is definitely the Prototype. His body is phenomenal. His mind is getting there. He's brand new, but he knows he's brand new, and he's working on everything all the time. And you can see the improvement of him from when he first started to where he's at today. And I think in a year, maybe 2 years, people are going to know who the Prototype is. Other guys, Frankie Kazarian, Smooth Billy D, Outlaw Mike Knox, these guys are all very good wrestlers, and I think the more that they get a chance to work in front of these types of crowds and in front of the eyes of the WWF, I think a lot more people are going to be coming out of UPW and getting onto the WWF.
What's the difference as far as wrestling in a dinner theater like this one as compared to a more normal wrestling setting?
Well, the big thing is that it's not people on all four sides, so you have to kind of be conscious of where the crowd is as to where you do your stuff. The way we've set up for television too, the hard cam is kind of off to the side, so it kind of makes it a little bit awkward in terms of who you're playing for. You want to remember you're playing here for television rather than just for the audience here. Plus, you gotta have a really live crowd. You gotta have a crowd that wants to get into it, because we're such a small building. We can only get a certain amount of people, and so if you get a full house, but it's a lackadaisical house or a lackluster house, it doesn't sound very good. But if you can get 200 people in this place and it's a live 200 people, it sounds like 1,000. So,
what's been your experience as far as how many times have you wrestled this building now?
I'd have to say somewhere between 6 and 10. I did a couple shows here earlier, and then after my WCW thing, I came back here more full time. So I have to say somewhere between 6 and 10.
Have you ever wrestled a single match with Tom Howard before?
No, I never have. I worked a three-way with him and Mad Dog Mike Bell a couple months ago, but Tom Howard and I have never wrestled in a singles match.
Any thoughts on it, or?
I think it's going to be a great match. I think Tom Howard is a heck of a talent. I think that just for unfortunate circumstances, timing-wise and scheduling-wise, he should have been in the WWF a long time ago. And I think the whole idea with him being part of Gangrel's gimmick, as I know the idea was supposed to be, that would have been something that when Gangrel was hot would have been something great for Tom. But like I said, scheduling conflicts and just circumstances being what they are, I think the WWF kind of missed the boat on that. And right now, but their loss right now is UPW's main. So I think it's going to be a great match. I think Tom's a good talent. And we're definitely going to put on a good show for these guys tonight.
Now, what's his status right now? Because there was talk that, or I guess he first had the contract, then he did, and then he did, and what's it like right now?
I couldn't really comment with any intelligence on that right now. The last thing I heard was that they were interested in him again, but I'm not sure from there where it went.
I don't think I actually just talked to him. I don't think that he's under contract right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he was a year ago, I guess, or whatever it was, when he was doing all the TV tapings and everything.
And I think with his level of involvement in UPW, it's just as easy to get back under contract with WWF. He's right under their noses. He's putting out good wrestling matches. So if the opportunity were to arise again for them to use him, I think definitely that he'd be right here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is actually the first television taping that these guys have wrestled, and for most of the wrestlers here, it's going to be something new. But you mentioned that they're kind of used to time constraints already.
Yeah, that's right. The whole idea from the very beginning was at some point we were going to do television. So Rick Bassman and the rest of the backstage guys always were trying to hammer it home that we needed to be right on time. We needed to have it pretty close to where we needed as far as time constraints. So this is the first time where it's really mattered, but we've always been under the gun as far as trying to keep our time at a certain level in the ring.
We've got one phone call. We're going to go to Mark. Mark, what's going on?
How you doing, Dave? How's everything? Brian, how are you?
Hey.
Good to hear from you guys. My question's for Mr. Daniels, and it's kind of a general commentary on how things work on the smaller circuits. By the way, I think it's great that you guys are doing a webcast from the UPW for tonight's big show. It validates the efforts of a lot of these small groups and helps keep the talent flowing and developing. My question, Chris, is if you were to take dates outside of UPW, okay, I don't know if you are or not, but if you were, okay, and you have maybe you're negotiating with 5 or 6 different groups for 5 or 6 different dates, is there a lot of back and forth in terms of what you're asking for in money and what they offer, and is it tough to coordinate doing all that yourself, or do you have somebody handle your business affairs?
No, I handled it all on my own, and I've been very fortunate that I've rarely had any dates like coincided with each other. Most of the federations kind of actually keep an eye on what they're all doing. So, and they get a hold of me far ahead enough of time so that if something were to come up, I'm already booked for one thing or another. At least I've got that kind of freedom, that kind of leeway to be able to say, well, you know what, I'm already booked for this show, maybe the next time. So, like I said, I've been lucky where I haven't had too many dates like landing on top of each other.
Now, do you find is the pace generally standard for you to work for one group as opposed to another, or is there a lot of back and forth, give and take type of for negotiation?
No, it's been pretty. Like I set my price, and most people have met it. So it's not been a lot of things where we've been negotiating back and forth, and I've been on television, and they've been, but we're broke, nothing like that. It's just been a matter of, I set the price, and I think it's a pretty fair price. They definitely get their money's worth. I don't go out and dog it. I go out there and bust my ass every time, no matter what federation, no matter who I'm wrestling, no matter how many people are in the audience. I always go out there and try and have the best match that I'm capable of having. And for the price that I ask, I think that's a heck of a deal for any promoter who's offered.
And that's great. It helps enhance your reputation. Thank you for taking my question. Dave, Brian, great show. Keep up the good work.
Thanks very much.
Take care.
You're talking about your schedule and everything. Do you pretty consistently get a certain number of dates a month, and how many would that be, or some months you get like 1, and the next month you get 10, or how's it all work? Or how does it seem to break down?
It actually does kind of break down where some months are better than others. Like this October, I had 14 matches, and there was a spell where I was working every other day. But that was because WCW was in town, WWF was in town. I had a trip to England. So all that just kind of coincided at the same time. Whereas like this December, I've only had 3 dates. I had the date last Saturday for APW. I've got tonight. And then the end of the year, December 30th, is the King of the Indies tournament that APW is running. December being a slow month because of the holidays. Some months are slower than others, but, most of the time it kind of averages out to about once or twice a week for me.
Now, and you put all that up on your website, right? Schedule?
I try to keep that up to date. I don't do my own website personally. I have a guy who does it for me, and just his own time constraints, whether I'm completely up to date or I'm behind a little bit. I try and keep it up to date, though.
Give the address of the website.
www.ChristopherDaniels.com.
Okay. Now, what are you doing this full time, or are you doing anything else to supplement your income? And optimally, how many dates would you want to be working right now?
I'd love to be working 3 dates a week. Right now, this is all I'm doing. I've been a professional wrestler only for about 1.5 years now. And I like it this way. It helps me focus on working out, training, all the things that I need to do to be ready for any dates. But I would like to be doing 3 dates a week if I could, but right now it kind of averages out to one or two.
And injury-wise, how do you feel right now?
Great. I've been very lucky injury-wise in my whole career. The only injury that I had was a groin pull that I suffered in February in Japan. And even for that, I recovered much quicker than I thought I was going to. So, knock on wood, I've been very fortunate.
Mm-hmm. Brian, anything?
That's pretty much it.
Okay.
You got the, I think I emailed you about this, the best foreign wrestler for Michinoku Pro, Curry Man.
Yeah, you did tell me about that. You were the first person that told me about that. That was a neat little thing, especially since I haven't been there for 9 months. But that was quite an honor. Those guys have been very good to me, and hopefully in the future I'll get a chance to go back out there and don the ugly yellow outfit again.
I guess someone emailed us, and I guess it's up on WF.com that Road Dogg has been suspended.
He has been suspended?
Yeah, they said for, what was the term? Undisclosed reasons.
Oh, there you go.
So, yeah. But obviously the reasons were what you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we'll have more on that, I'm sure, later in the week. As far as in the upcoming year, are there any big dates that you have upcoming?
Well, the only one that I can think of right now is the 2001 Super 8, which is February 24th, 2001. And I'm not even actually booked on that at this point, but the possibility that I will be booked on it, hopefully is large. I hope that I'll get a chance to go in and defend the title this year. It may go that way, it may not. It's up to Jim Kettner. But whether I'm in that tournament or not, it's definitely a big date as far as independent wrestling goes. And hopefully I think the tournament will be as good this coming year as it has been in the last 4.
Any promotions around the world that you've really wanted to work for that you've never had a chance to go?
No, I've been pretty fortunate to be able to work for the places that I've really wanted to go. I would like to go out down into Florida and work for IPW. There's a good group of guys down there, Scoot Andrews, Jet Jaguar, those guys down there. I haven't really had a chance to work with them yet, but that's the only one off the top of my head that I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to Tom in California. Tom, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing really good.
All right. My question is for Chris. I'm really surprised that you haven't been signed to the WWF or anything like that, because I saw you, I think it was October 9th at a Raw show in Anaheim, and you wrestled in the dark match with K-Quick, I think it was, or K-Rock.
Right.
And that was just unbelievable. I'm serious.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate that. I had a good match with K-Quick, who they're calling him now. And, I'd heard a lot about him from Reckless Youth because they were in Memphis together, and I was happy to get a chance to work with him. As far as why I'm not booked or working for WWF, I feel the same way. I don't know why, but right now that's the case, and hopefully it'll change.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, very welcome. Is it ever, as far as at this point in your career, does the frustration ever get to you, or do you just kind of figure you can bide your time? Kind of like when you watch wrestling on TV. I mean, you have to go in there and look and go, half these guys, 2/3 of these guys, I'm as good as, better than a lot, and I'm here. Does that ever get to you, or do you just figure that sooner or later the ability's going to play out, and they're going to someone's going to find a spot for you, and you're going to be ready when that happens?
I try not to play the why him not me game, just because the only thing it makes me do is makes me really upset. So I'm happy for the guys that are there that have their opportunity, And I just, like you said, I kind of bide my time, and I figure at some point, if I keep going out and having good matches on the independent scene, keep having good matches in dark matches when I have those opportunities, at some point something's going to break for me. I mean, I can't keep beating my head up against the wall and thinking this is the way it's going to be for the rest of my life, or else I'd slowly and surely go insane. But, you know, like I said, I'm trying to keep my level of ability up. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to keep myself in the eye of WWF, WCW. Anyone that would give me the opportunity, I'm just looking for that opportunity to do what I can do.
You ever talk to the iGeneration people, or no?
You know what? I did talk to them. They offered me some work, but they never really came through with a date. It was just like, hey, we're interested in using you, and I was like, hey, I'm interested in working, and that was the last I heard of it. So, you know, hopefully they'll call me back if they're listening. Call me back.
How about Mexico? How much work have you done there, if any?
My experiences in Mexico weren't very good, to be honest with you. I've done some independent stuff, mostly in Tijuana, and I've always come away with kind of a bad taste in my mouth. I've never been able to go down there and actually work with guys that I thought were, like, really wanted to go in and work. They really just wanted to turn into, like, an America versus Mexico slap-chop brawl. And, you know, it wasn't anything that I felt like I wanted to go drive 4 hours and get paid $50 to do, you know, a lot, so.
Yeah.
As far as, we talked a little bit the last time you were on about England and everything, and you got to work with Shinjiro Otani, right?
Right, yeah.
And I guess whatever it is, he's back in New Japan on the 4th, so.
Oh.
So he's, and he's pretty high on the card, too. He's like third from the top.
Is he bigger?
I don't know. Oh, I've seen pictures of him. He doesn't look appreciably bigger, but it's going to be, Muto and Otani against Nakanishi and Jushin Liger. It's a pretty high-profile match for him to come back for.
Yeah, as far as his size, he was a lot bigger when I met him than I thought in my mind that he was. So with him being in the ring with Jushin Liger, I don't think anybody's going to go, holy cow, Otani looks so small next to these guys.
But Jushin Liger's a lot bigger than most people think, too. I mean, like, not height-wise.
No, not height-wise, but he's thick. He's very thick.
Yeah. When you were at the Super J earlier this year, were there any of those guys that you saw that, like, surprised you as far as their ability? And what do you think of Onryo? We talked a little bit about that with that cool little gimmick that he's got.
No, I kind of knew most of the guys going in. The only one that I'd never really heard of was the younger guy from New Japan, Shinya Makabe.
Yeah.
The rest of the guys I kind of at least had seen either while I was over there or I had seen before here in the States. And I'm not really a big follower of Japanese wrestling. So the guys that were there, I did have some sort of background on most of them. Onru was great. He bent over backwards. He made me feel like such a big star. He acted like I was like the biggest star he'd ever wrestled with, which I couldn't comprehend really.
He might have been actually.
Well,
because he was with a small group.
I guess it was just hard to comprehend. He acted like I would act if Shawn Michaels had said, "Yeah, I'll put you over." You know, I was like, "Oh my God!" And I figured if he was good enough to be in the J Cup, there should be no question that he'd be good enough to advance, and I had no problem putting him over. And I was really happy with the match, like I said before. He and I worked really well together, and for that short time constraint that most of the first round matches were given, I thought we put on a pretty decent show.
Okay, here's a question for you: Shawn Michaels, Hall of Fame, yes or no?
Oh, definitely, definitely. That's not even a question.
Sometimes we think too, but
yeah, we think that too, but some people it is.
Well, I think apart from the fact that he was such a good worker in his time, and and arguably still could probably be today if his back wasn't the situation it's in. He was one of the forerunners of the guys that went away from the big, heavy, lumbering wrestler to the slick, svelte, cruiserweight style that's most people enjoy the most now. So he definitely was one of the people that turned it around in terms of that. Him and Sean Waltman definitely are two guys in my mind that influenced the generation of wrestling.
When you were starting in wrestling, and Shawn Michaels was he one of the guys that you would look at and go, because you're smaller than certainly the wrestlers of the 80s, you're a lot smaller than them.
Right, definitely.
And you go in there and you saw Shawn Michaels, who was able to be a solid main eventer and a superstar. Was that one of the things where you go, okay, the size isn't like it was in the 80s where I am big enough to where I can make it if I have ability, whereas in the 80s, guys your size, it would have been real tough no matter how good you were.
Yeah, I'd have to say the first person that I saw in that vein was Sean Waltman because of Global. I started watching Global and watching him wrestling in the light heavyweight tournaments that they had. He was the first person that kind of opened my eyes that you didn't have to be 250 pounds or bigger to make even a small name, because at the time Global wasn't necessarily the biggest promotion in the world. But Shawn Michaels sort of came slowly but surely from the tag ranks to that first opening heel spot that he had against Jannetty and against Martel at that one WrestleMania, and slowly but surely built his way up into Intercontinental Champion and World Champion. So it was kind of like two different avenues for the two of them, but definitely the same result. Breaking the stereotypes of wrestler equals big hulking guy.
How much do you weigh right now?
210 pounds.
210?
Yeah.
And is that as far as like is your weight varied, or were you always, like, let's say 2-3 years ago, were you this weight?
I was a little bit heavier, but I was certainly a lot thicker. I think I've tried to cut down a little bit so I wasn't so bulky looking. My particular drawback physically is that when I try and put on weight, it usually goes in the wrong space or the wrong area, and it doesn't look all that good on me. So I've been really conscious of trying to cut up and stay cut looking and try and carry myself so that I look thicker than I really am. I don't want to get all bulky and puffy and carb up like a lot of guys that I've seen who are trying to put on weight. They just put on weight and they don't care whether they look fat or put on a pair of tights and they look like they ought to be wearing singlets or something like that.
Now, with you in the ring during a match, when you're heavier, does that work against you for conditioning, or did you never get so heavy to where that was an issue?
I've never been that heavy, unfortunately, where it's been an issue. I wish that was an issue with me sometimes, that I was so big that I had to worry about conditioning. But I've been pretty good in my career, knock on wood, about trying to keep my conditioning up, just because I knew that was the style that I needed to run. Nobody's really going to come and pay money to see me try and press slam guys or hit them with power moves all night long. It's always been a high-flying style, so I've always tried to keep the weight where I could do the flying moves and do them well 10 times out of 10.
Now, there was one move that everyone talks about that you do, and I don't even know the name of it, but I guess it's that. It's kind of like the neck breaker.
Oh, no. Angel's Wings is the other one. The Last Rites is the neck breaker.
Okay.
It's basically an inverted swinging face breaker. Like a shake, rattle, and roll, but the guy's upside down.
Kind of like Reno's deal, or?
Well, yeah, it's like Reno's deal, except I've been doing it for about 5 years longer. I'm not bitter about that at all. I can't say he stole it. I was just speaking to someone about that, and someone mentioned how I felt that Nova was using it, and I said, it's not like I discovered. Well, I don't know if he'd ever seen me do it before he tried using it, so I can't say he stole it. I mean, it's not like I discovered an ancient hieroglyphics. It's at some point someone goes, well, I can put his head here and do this with it, So it's not that he stole it, it's just that he kind of had the same idea. And, we can debate who did it first, but, in my mind I had it first, and, I could show tape about it, but it doesn't really matter. In the end, it doesn't.
Actually,
I mean, honestly, and that's not a bite on anybody. What's that?
To some people it does, that's why we have to bring it up.
Yeah, I just, that's kind of a...
It's lame?
It's I understand where a lot of guys are coming from, because the whole idea, I always save Last Rites. I never want to do it on television unless it's a finish. I never want to do it in a match unless it's a finish, because I wanted Last Rites, honestly, I wanted it to be the next DDT. I wanted to make that mark on wrestling where that move was a big deal, and people go, like people say when Jake Roberts and they talk about the DDT was a big move, and it's still a big move. And I would have loved to have been the guy that brought Last Rites to television, and everyone 5 years, 10 years from now is using it and going, hey, you know what, that was Chris Daniels' deal from the beginning. So, I understand that philosophy. I just, at this point, I can't really be bitter about Nova being able to use it on television or Reno being able to use it on television. It's just the way that went. I would have loved to have been the first guy to use it on TV, but it didn't go that way.
Our guest right now for this segment is John Cena, the Prototype, who was featured on the Discovery Channel, right?
That's correct.
What was the reaction to you since we've been actually ever since that Discovery Channel show? We've been talking about
diet.
Your diet.
Yes, the diet. The diet is mostly just food and lots of it. Lots of chicken, lots of steak, lots of eggs. It's a pretty big grocery bill.
Now, realistically, how many meals a day do you eat, or do you just eat constantly all day?
It depends on how long I'm awake. I eat about 8 to 10 meals a day, every 2 hours. A meal can be 2 cups of milk and 2 scoops of protein, or it can be 24 ounces of steak.
24 ounces of steak, and then you're eating 2 hours later?
Of course.
Oh my God. That's difficult.
You got to do it.
Now, training-wise, how long have you been into the bodybuilding?
I've been in bodybuilding. I started competing ever since I was 18, but I've been into it ever since I was 12.
And how old are you right now?
23.
23? And you're originally from Massachusetts?
Originally from West Newbury, Massachusetts, yeah.
Okay. And how did you wind up in Southern California?
I came out on a spring break from college, and I liked it so much. As soon as I graduated, I moved out here. I had no aspirations of doing anything with wrestling. My very first job, I got tied in with Shelley, who wrestles in here at UPW. He forced me to come down here, and it's been good luck ever since.
How is it going on the road as far as trying to eat every 2 hours?
You just pack your food in the cooler. You got a big ice chest. Like today, I got a bunch of stuff in my bag. You make do.
So it's been pretty easy for you?
You can pretty much find something to eat everywhere on the face of the earth. So, yeah, as long as you can find food, I'm a happy man.
Okay, now you have not done traveling like on a WWF-like schedule.
No, sir.
But you basically are aware of the schedule and you are under a developmental deal with them.
Of course.
And what are your thoughts as far as what would be the difficulties and how difficult would it be, do you think, for you to maintain your physique while doing the WWF schedule?
I don't think it would be a problem at all.
Really?
Yep, I don't think it would be a problem at all. I'm not much for nightlife or whatever. I'd be one of the good kids who goes to bed early and then wakes up early. I really don't think it would be a problem because they're in a major city all the time. They're never in the middle of nowhere. So there's always a gym locally. There's always a tanning place locally. You can get your workout in, definitely. Someone said your father or grandfather was involved in wrestling in some form? My dad did a little bit of very small time promoting in Beverly, Massachusetts in like the mid 70s. But he's been a WWF mark forever.
So were you a fan growing up?
Of course I was. My dad forced me to watch Saturday Night Main Event, all that stuff, definitely.
So now, but when you were growing up and playing football and everything like that, you really didn't have aspirations for yourself to be a pro wrestler.
No, you know what? as soon as I started playing football, that was what I wanted to do. I got finished with college and took a look at myself and how football was going, and I realized I was just too small to be able to play. I came out to California with aspirations of bodybuilding, but it's a horrible drug race, and I don't want to get involved in that. And wrestling is just keeps you athletic. It's unbelievable. I've always had an interest in it, and I didn't think I'd be able to do it, so when I had the chance to get involved, it was a good thing.
Now, when did you first show up at the school? How long ago was that?
October 99.
So it's only been a little over a year.
Yep.
And when did you have your first match?
They had me do a run-in in November of 99. Getting the big guys out there right away. But no, I still haven't had my first good match yet. I started really early. I started very untrained. So.
What was your feeling the first time that you had to do a WF tryout match?
Very, very nervous. Very nervous.
Well, what was the first? Was Oakland the first one, or did you do one?
Oakland was the first one.
Oh, so I saw your first WWF match then.
Yes, yeah. Yes. Yeah, and that was only about 6 months into it. Yeah. I'd only been training for about 6 months, so I was very nervous.
Now, when did they first approach you as far as signing you up?
That actually came along. I really forget the timeline. I think it was June. The Discovery Channel special covered it. I honestly knew nothing of it until that big meeting, and they said it, and I was just overjoyed. It was great.
Doing promos and everything, do you work a lot on the promos?
I can't wrestle, but I can talk. Yeah, I figured I got to get something to get me in, so that's one thing I try to do. I try to talk some good trash.
Except for Billy Graham, I think this is the most honest. Billy Graham used to say that when people would talk about great matches and everything, and he'd go, I didn't have great matches, I just had good interviews.
That's the one thing I really try to focus on, because that's something that comes easy to me. I can really maybe pick a catchphrase out of my head immediately, or just fall into the character pretty easy. But as far as the skills, it takes years and years to learn that, and I haven't had the time yet, so hopefully that'll come with training.
Let's go to Chris in Long Island. Chris, you're up with John Cena, Prototype.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going pretty good.
I've never seen him work, but you said you had him. He's being kind of hard on himself, but what would your opinion of him as a worker be so far?
I've never seen him. I've only seen him in one full match, which was the Oakland match, and I mean, he connected with the crowd, but I mean, he'd only been wrestling for 6 months.
Yeah, whatever you hear for hype, don't really believe it. I'm as green as they come. I'm very, very new. I'm just learning like everybody else. Like I said, I've had about 60 matches on tape, and not one of them is one that I'd be proud of. Probably the one I had with Chris Daniels is one that's great because he can carry anybody. It doesn't matter. But no, I'm still working. I'm still trying to get better every day. So it'll come with time, hopefully.
The 5 classes a week at school?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
5 practices a week. Yeah. Keep going.
Chris, go. You guys have to.
Okay. No,
Chris.
he just spoke about him and was talking pretty highly of him. So I assume that he's better than he's letting on, at least.
Yeah. Chris spoke highly of you as far as everything. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I paid him well to say that. Checks in the mail, Chris.
What sort of style do you work? More of a power style or more?
Right now, definitely a power style. Only because my moves list is very limited because of the time I've been training. Hopefully, with more practice and more time in the ring, I'll be able to move up. I do like to fly. I have a 33-inch vertical jump. I can jump and I can move, but it's just the thing of being comfortable in the ring. You can't learn to run before you walk. So right now, I'm just learning the steps.
What's basically your character like, your gimmick as far as that?
My gimmick is a scientifically created person. It's not people think I'm like RoboCop. That's too robotic. I can't do that. If you cut me, I'll bleed. If you hurt me, I'll get hurt. But the thing is, you won't get to me because I'm bigger, faster, stronger, and better than everyone out there. That's what the prototype is. He's a genetically created man who was personally created to be better than everyone else.
That sounds pretty good, actually. I have a question for Dave, actually, too, if I could.
Sure, go ahead.
Hoovy's at the show, right? He's supposed to be fighting...
Hoovy's at the show, yeah, he is.
Is this like a tryout match for the WWF, I heard?
No, there's nobody from the... As far as I know, there's nobody from the WWF.
There's no high personnel from the WWF, no corporate brass.
Yeah, no, this is just
a test sort of thing for him.
No. It's just local independent. He just wants to... he's just looking for work with a new company and things like that. And, just, rebuild his name, basically.
Okay, and lastly, too, real quick, this is off the subject of the show, but for the WWF, the whole thing with the whole Vince McMahon angle and the whole girlfriend angle, you think at some point they're going to try and counter that when Linda comes back with maybe a guy that she's with, a boyfriend or something? Sort of.
I would guess no, but you never know with how those scriptwriters work.
I'm available, just let me know. I can fit in there.
If they really wanted to put a twist on it with the whole, if they do go with Trish as McMahon's girlfriend, they come in and maybe have Test come in with Linda. This is sort of a little...
then the very test.
That'd be creepy.
You think, I know, but I think it would be sort of his, I don't know, maybe his shot.
Nah, they're not gonna do it with Test.
You don't think?
I shouldn't say they may do. You never know what they'll do, but I don't like that one.
Okay. All right. Take care, guys.
Okay. John, who's aside from Chris Daniels, anybody else that you've wrestled that we would pretty well know? Or
Crash Holly. I got the chance to work with Crash Holly. He was very good. He's another match that he carried me the whole way through. Most of the guys in the UPW I've worked for, but besides Chris and Crash, those are probably the two that you'd know.
What type of goals and timetables do you have, or is it just sort of like you figure the timetable is what someone else decides for you?
You know what? As far as getting to the big time or getting on TV or whatever, I really don't control that. All I can do is bust my ass all day long, 5 practices a week, try to cram this thing into as little time as I can and get as good as I can in a short amount of time. And hopefully I'll catch some eyes and they'll bring me up. But I have no timetable. I love wrestling. I've become addicted to it in the past year and a half, and it's something I'm going to do whether I continue with the WWF or not.
Would you rather train for like 2 years and just get better, or would you rather get on TV sooner, like for the WWF?
I think either way it would work to be an advantage. The more time I train, the more I would know, but then in the same aspect, being on the road with WWF wrestlers, they know a hell of a lot, and working with those guys every day, I'd also learn a lot very quickly. So either way, it's a good scenario. I wouldn't be afraid of either one.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone in WWF that you would like to work with or for, someone that you could, or just anyone?
Triple H.
Really?
Triple H, he's great. Yeah, he's the Chris Daniels. He puts people over.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
He can make people look good.
He's unbelievable.
Yeah. If he wants to.
Yep. Exactly. But no, he makes it very entertaining. He's unbelievable.
When you were
learn a
growing
lot
up,
from him politically too.
When you were growing up, was there anyone in particular that you liked watching, or was it just sort of like your dad made you watch and you didn't?
To tell you, no, I loved it. I liked watching all the bigger guys, like any of the guys with muscles. Don the Rock Morocco is one of my favorites just because he had those freaky veins all over him.
The big delts, yeah.
Hogan, Warrior, like Butch Reed, all those guys. Just the bigger guys. For some reason, that was always my thing. You know.
Were you into as far as like a bodybuilding fan when you started bodybuilding, or did you just do it for football?
No, to tell you the truth, I did it because some bully was threatening to kick my butt in the schoolyard. And I figured that'd be a way for self-defense. I figured if I started lifting weights, you wouldn't mess with me anymore. So
and then you just got addicted to it, basically?
Yeah, I would train every day at my house, and this went on for about 3 years, and when I was 15, I started playing football. And the coaches kept preaching that the stronger you are, the better you are. So I was good at the strong thing. I wasn't really good at playing. So I beefed up my strength, and hopefully the athletic ability came with it.
And you played college football?
Yep, I played college for Springfield College in Springfield, Mass. I graduated in the class of 99. I was a first-team Hewlett-Packard All-American in 99 and the team captain.
And as far as pursuing football, you just felt that because of the position you were too small? Or?
Yeah, unfortunately, I was an offensive lineman, and that's something I'm not an athlete. I'm an offensive lineman. I can't play anywhere else on the field. And today, offensive linemen are 6'5" and taller, and 300 pounds or bigger.
How much are you weighing right now?
250 at 6 feet.
6 feet, 250?
Yep.
Do you think that's the best weight for you for wrestling right now, or would you like to go up or down?
I've been told not to go up. I've been as high as 275. I really like 250. I can breathe. I don't get blown up as fast. I wrestle really comfortably at 230, but it's very much of a hassle to lose all that weight.
Really?
Yeah.
But you don't need to. I mean, it's not a weight class thing. You know,
no.
like amateur wrestling where there's a purpose of cutting weight where you're uncomfortable.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I mean, just for weight bearing, getting that 20 pounds off you can move quicker. I mean, everything's a little bit smoother. But 250 is like right in the middle. It's comfortable. Like I said, I don't get blown out, so it's good.
So now, as far as your lifestyle right now, it's pretty much the training, going to the gym, training here, and eating all day.
That's it.
Okay. You don't do anything else?
And watching tapes. And that's it.
What type of tapes?
Anything I got my hands on.
Japanese, Mexican, or no?
I tend to just watch basically WWF and WCW. That's it. Whether it be new, old, just television type stuff. I can't say that I'm not a fan of it because I like to see the high spots and stuff like that, but right now that's not my caliber of work rate, so I don't want to go and watch that and then try to emulate it and just do a very poor job at it. So I'm trying to watch, the top guys in the WWF and some old stuff. That's it.
For talking, who do you want to like emulate your talking style after, or do you have your own talking style and you just like?
I'm fascinated by The Rock. Obviously, he's amazing. He can do a 5-minute promo and keep everybody interested. I think Edge and Christian are hysterical. I think Kurt Angle is awesome. Those guys, anybody that can cut a great promo and have you interested in them is unbelievable.
What was your reaction to some of the WWF guys when they come down here and wrestled, like Kurt Angle?
Awesome. The WWF atmosphere is awesome. Everybody is so nice. When I went up to Oakland, and even in the Staples Center in Los Angeles, I feel like such an ass because I feel so out of my environment. I mean, here's the top of the food chain. These guys are it. And you think it's going to be all cutthroat, and you think they're going to want their own space and stuff like this. These guys are down-to-earth people. It's a total family atmosphere. I can't say anything bad about the World Wrestling Federation.
What was like the first step that they started talking to you about when they first were talking to you about signing you up?
Believe it or not, I am like out of the link. I'm out of the loop. They don't say anything to me. They go through Rick Bassman, the head of UPW, for everything. When Bruce Pritchard comes out and like Jim Ross comes out to watch our shows, I'll talk to him then. But it has nothing to do with wrestling. I'll tell him to stay out of trouble. I'll ask him how his life on the road. That's it. We very rarely talk about wrestling. Rick handles all that.
Have they talked to you about like perhaps going somewhere else to another territory? Are they going to stick with you here for long?
Honestly, I know as much as you do. They don't tell me anything.
Well, I'll ask and pass it on.
I just show up and work. That's it.
Tonight, who are you going to be wrestling tonight?
I have some sort of mystery opponent they have planned. I guess you'll have to stay for the show and find out. But
actually, I do know, but that's okay.
Rick Bassman has his hand in it, so it should be pretty good.
Yeah. So now, as far as what's the name of that finisher that you're doing right now?
The announcers have dubbed it the Porteau bomb, so I guess we'll go with the Porteau bomb. It's a belly to back setup, which ends up in like a sidewalk slam with my opponent doing a 180-degree rotation. It's pretty easy for me because it's just easy to control the guy's body, and it actually looks kind of decent, so it's a pretty cool finisher. I'm working on one right now that I don't know if I'll be able to use. It's just picking a guy up for a regular scoop slam and then turning it into a rock bottom. It's also pretty cool because the guy goes through a 180-degree rotation, but it ends up in a rock bottom. So I mean,
as far as the strength goes, does that enable you to do a lot of stuff that maybe a lot of other wrestlers wouldn't be able to do?
Yeah, but unfortunately, I haven't been able to learn how to use it. You know, like I said, I have a good vertical leap and I can jump, and I have pretty good agility. But with the strength, I can manipulate things better. Like if I slip a little bit, I can catch up. It helps with like blown spots. You know, you can cover something up. So the strength helps a lot, but with more work, I'll be able to use it.
You ever doing like powerlifting stuff or just regular weight?
Yeah, all the time. That's a big part of my training. I mean, looking good is one thing, but strength in the ring is another thing. You can use them in both aspects.
So your training is you're training very heavy weights or moderate heavy weights? When
Everything from heavy to light, from 1 rep to 25 reps to 500 reps.
Really?
Everything, yeah.
Really? What would you do 500 reps for?
That's if you come into the gym and you're not feeling as strong as you usually do, you put a couple plates on the leg press and you just go until you can't go anymore.
500 reps?
We call it the Indianapolis 500.
Oh, I've never done anything like that in my life.
It's pretty excruciating.
My girlfriend used to make me do 100 reps for calves, and that was like one set. That's it.
It's pretty cool. We've made some people cry. It's pretty fun.
I would bet.
So
we've got two guests right now. We've got Mike Modest and Donovan Morgan. Donovan Morgan's the head trainer of All Pro Wrestling. We haven't had him on the show. We've had Mike on a couple of times before. And we're going to have, for those of you, we're going to have John Cena on again in mid-January between meals. So that should be pretty good.
He would have to eat during the show.
No. We scheduled it that it's right between the meals.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah, 90 minutes. That's all we could get. Anyway, Mike, you've been since last time we talked to you, you've been working a lot with Urban Wrestling.
Yeah, the Urban Wrestling Alliance.
As basically, what's your role? There's the head trainer.
Yeah, I'm the head trainer, and I will also be wrestling for them. In January, we go back to taping. So, I'm pretty excited to get back in the ring. I just had orthoscopic surgery done to my right knee, and so I can't wait to get back in the ring.
Was the match over the weekend your first match back?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, 33-minute match, me and Chris Daniels versus the West Side Players. It was a pretty decent match. It was okay.
People raved about it.
Yeah, it wasn't anything to rave about, but it was good. It was a good match.
Then, Donovan, you've been taken over as the head trainer at All Pro Wrestling. What's that been like as far as that's concerned?
Well, Mike Modest refers to it as me kind of being the one-legged man at the ass-kicking contest. So, but it's been good, Thank God I have Mike to call, because Mike trained me, and anytime I need advice, Mike's the first one I call. But I think I'm doing a pretty good job. I'm running it just the way Mike has run it for all the years that he's been head trainer there. And I think we're doing a good job. We're still old school, in a lot of different ways, but we're also incorporating a lot of the new stuff too. So we have a pretty good hold on things right now, I think.
I'm Donovan's Roland hotline. Whenever he's got issues with Roland, he calls me and says, "Mike, Roland's he's driving me nuts. What do I do?" And Roland and I are very tight, and also Donovan, and so. Between the three of us, the thing still seems to run like a, well-oiled machine,
Donovan, for you, when you started in wrestling, which was only a couple of years ago, in many ways it was a very different business. How do you feel like as far as like the changes in the business and adapting to the changes when you go out for a match, let's say now? What's your mentality as compared to, say, even 2 years ago, as far as what you can do and what you have to do differently with this differently educated crowd?
Yeah, that's a great question. Up until like 6 months ago, I'd always go into a match and I'd start with lockup, some chain wrestling, maybe a little amateur, and then build the match from there. And nowadays, it seems like you get in the ring and it's just punch, back and forth, whip them off, quicker. The fans want to see quicker paced, faster matches, and especially here, at UPW, I never really lock up and go into any amateur wrestling or hold to hold, because the matches are real quick and they want to see fast-paced WWF type action, and it's changed tremendously over the last couple of years. But I still, when I wrestled at APW, like I had a match with Chris Daniels not too long ago, we went 20 minutes, and there was a lot of wrestling in that match. But I kind of just, adapt to wherever I'm at the time.
Do you think that's just a trend, or you think it's like a permanent change where that's what fans are going to accept from now on?
I don't know. I mean, if you ask me what I wished it was, I wish it would be just a trend, because I love wrestling. I love building a match. I love taking a headlock and making it mean something in the match. And now, really, headlock doesn't mean jack. And I pray it's just a trend, but I think it's probably the way wrestling's going to go. It's just going to build, and that's what people are going to want to see. People aren't going to want to see it slow down. They want to see it get faster.
Sadly, since it's been labeled sports entertainment, they are driving the workers more and more towards the entertainment side of the business, which is, kind of sad. I remember growing up and watching guys like Ray Stevens and Pat Patterson, Rocky Johnson, and they really knew how to build the psychology of a match and everything, and I think that's the art that's being lost.
You mentioned Rocky Johnson. Rocky Johnson, I guess, is going to be working with you very soon.
Yeah, Rocky Johnson, I think, is coming aboard UWA, which I'm very, very excited about. Obviously, I can learn so much from a guy like that. Already though, he's a little old school sometimes, even for me. But I think overall, I think it's going to be a great thing for UWA, and I really think that some very big things are going to happen with UWA. It's a totally fresh product, and now with Rocky on board, I don't see how it can be stopped.
How's Tony Jones doing there?
Tony is great. Wherever I see Tony, he's an incredible wrestler. I can't say enough good things about him. Obviously, I trained him, so I'm a little biased, but I hear the same thing from everybody. Rick Bassman here at UPW sings praises of him. Jim Ross, WCW. In fact, I just talked to Terry Taylor not too long ago, and Terry brought up Tony and was talking about what a great worker he was and great wrestler he was. So I think you're going to see some big things from Tony with UWA, and also just in the wrestling business in general. I think Tony's going to be around for a long time.
For both of you guys, where, aside from All Pro Wrestling down here, are there other places where you guys are going to be doing? I know you've worked a lot out east, or not a lot, but some out east.
Yeah.
You've worked a little bit around the country. Are there different promotions that you're working a lot for that we're not hearing about, or?
Basically, I'm working for Dale Gagne, and I'm pretty much a permanent part of his roster now. Whenever he runs shows, but that's the question. When he runs shows, he hasn't done anything since November. And I'm working for Ron Nemes's in Florida, IPW. I'm going to be going back there a lot. And basically, I just sent a bunch of stuff to Japan, and I feel like I have a pretty solid tape now. I feel comfortable sending out tapes, whereas, a couple of years ago I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel like I was ready, but now my body and my wrestling's come a long ways, so I'm just getting work where I can, getting experience and exposure, and it's not about the money for me, it's about the work and, being humble and getting experience.
How come like when we had Kaniski on or something, we didn't have all these breaks? I mean, we have this has been one of the best shows we've done. We've had nothing but technical problems. On this one, the power just went off.
The power went off the whole building?
No, just in this room. Yeah, so anyway, we were talking a little bit earlier, right here, about Vic Grimes. What's been up with Vic Grimes since, I guess, we've last heard about him?
Yeah, I guess Vic's working indie bookings and everything, and it's really a shame because, the guy really puts his body on the line whenever he works a card, and, so he's asking for some kind of big money because he figures since he had a WWF developmental and worked for ECW and got some exposure there, he thinks he's worth the price, and I think he is as well. But I think it's just a little tough to demand that, being that he really didn't get a whole lot of exposure from ECW or WWF, so it's kind of unfortunate for him. But he is picking up some indie bookings.
One thing I want to make mention that this UPW show tonight is going to be live on upw.com at 8 p.m. Pacific time, which is 11 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to watch, it's about a 10-11 match show, including the Hardys in the main event against the Ballard brothers. Michael Modest is going to be wrestling Donovan. Juventud Guerrero is going to wrestle Mikey Henderson. Chris Daniels against Tom Howard. Those are some of the matches. How do you guys like working down here?
Actually, this is the first time I've worked for UPW, and I'm really excited about it. Roland's a great guy, and I've got nothing bad to say about Roland at all, but, he is pretty controversial and gets in a lot of heat with a lot of different promotions and everything. And one of the reasons why I really wanted to come work for UPW was to show the workers down here that I've got nothing against them. I mean, as far as I'm always concerned, the boys are the boys. Let the promoters just, fight it out if they want to, but as far as I'm concerned, I've got no heat with anybody in the business. So I'm really excited to be down here and be able to work with these guys and meet some of these guys for the first time.
And Donovan, you've been here a couple of times before?
Yeah, I've been here about 3 times before. I mean, I have nothing but good things to say either. It's definitely it's good from an experience standpoint because you get to work in a company that is exactly what the WWF wants and exactly the product that they like. And if you have a match, like the first time I wrestled here, I did take a hammerlock in the first 30 seconds of the match, and they told me, hey, the WWF really doesn't want to see hammerlocks and headlocks. And I said, okay, no problem. Next time it's punch, kick, stomp, But it's good from an experience standpoint. I like it. I like the guys, and Rick's really treated me good with respect.
So. Now, is that punch, kick, stomp, or kick, stomp, punch?
I don't know. I think it's punch, kick, stomp.
I always get confused on those.
Now, when you guys come down here, and this is the first time I've ever been here, but I've noticed like the setup and things like that. What do you think they do good here that they could do up in Northern California with the APW as far as like the production end of the show, or is it basically the same in your mind?
Well, APW has a pretty good production, but the first time I came down to see a UPW show, I was just very, very impressed at the way Rick runs this thing. It's run just like WWF, WCW. Early call time so that everybody's prepared and ready to go when it's match time. The lighting and everything, of course, is great. I mean, it is run just like a small version of WWF. And the first thing I did when I went back to APW after seeing the UPW show was I called Donovan and Roland both got on a conference call, and I said, you guys need to get down and watch a show because you can do nothing but learn. And I wish both companies could work together a little bit, and I think it would do Rick Bassman some good to send some guys up to APW and to get some, get a little more exposure, a little more ring experience, and also to work a longer style match. And at the same time, I think it's good for APW guys to come down and work with UPW so they can see the other, end of the spectrum. It's funny because APW I've always thought of as almost like a WCW type training, and UPW is obviously the WWF.
If there was something where there was actually television too, there's an obvious way you can work Northern California, Southern California angle. It's an easy one.
There's so many possibilities, and it's like if Roland and Rick did get together, me and Mike have said this a lot of times. They'd be unstoppable. But that's easier said than done.
What do you think the chances are of that ever happening?
Probably
0.
Yeah. Probably in the negative.
Yeah. No. Yeah. There's probably less than a 0 chance. Knowing Roland like I do, and knowing Rick for a very short time, but already seeing that Roland and Rick are very much alike. The only difference is Rick is skinny and Roland is fat. But, they're very, very, they've got a lot in common. And they're both perfectionists. I mean, they both demand perfection, which is why I think both schools are just the top schools in the country now, which is funny because most of the workers and most of the companies are based out of the East Coast. It's just odd to me that 2 of the best training camps would be out here way on the West Coast, in California.
Have you guys watched how they do the training down here? And what have you picked anything up as far as new ideas
Oh, big time. I've actually I came down here and saw that they do the light show. Idea. It was just kind of like a little practice on Friday nights. Where the wrestlers wrestle matches in the school. And, it's just experience for them. And I took that back, and I told the guys, even though our company does run more shows than UPW, we average about 3 a month, or we have been, 3 house shows, I said we still could use the experience. So we've been doing small light show practices, and I think it's working out really good. And also like promo classes. UPW has promo classes, and getting guys experience on the microphone in front of people. That's something that you need today. Today it's a lot about mic skills. That's a big thing in the business. So yeah, definitely there's things here that I like. But and also there's things that I've seen that I haven't used. But I think we're pretty well rounded.
I think one of the other things, going back to why I think APW and UPW kind of working together a little bit would be a good thing, is one of the things that really bothers me is lazy workers, guys that don't want to put forth the energy in their bodies or their in-ring ability, their gimmick, whatever it may be. I can't stand a lazy guy, because they're really wasting their time and my time and risking their bodies for nothing. I mean, this is definitely not something to do as a hobby. I mean, I know of no other hobby where you can just be crippled, for participating. And I think if Roland brought in some UPW guys to use them on shows, guys like John, for example, the guy's a huge prototype. He's got a great body, great attitude. He's a little green, but from what I see, it doesn't show, because he knows how to use what he's got. And I think he would be a prime candidate to come up and work for APW, and then some of those lazy bastards over at APW might see this guy and go, geez, why is he being used and I'm not? Well, maybe it's because John's got a good attitude. Maybe it's because he works out in the gym and also works out in the ring and gives a crap,
Well, this is one of the things is as far as, and I noticed this with APW, years ago, and I'll tell you, it always kind of mystified me, is you spend all this money on wrestling school. It's not cheap.
No,
by any means. No. And it's not easy. You guys, it's not easy at all. It's very, very difficult to make it as a pro wrestler. The odds are against you. And why you wouldn't go to the gym and train? Because it's like, unless you're a genetic freak, there's very few guys who are going to be able to make it in the business. I mean, I'm not saying you've got to look like a bodybuilder.
No.
But you know what I mean. You
have to be in shape.
You have to be in shape. You can't be totally out of shape. Even if you're a good worker, if you've got a really ugly physique,
it doesn't mean anything.
Unless you're really lucky, like you're Mick Foley. I mean, very few.
But even Mick has size, at least.
Yeah, he's a 6'3" guy, 300 pounds, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. In fact, case in point, we have a guy named Mayock. This guy relocated from Texas, left his fiancée, and told her, hey, I'm going to go pursue this dream of being a pro wrestler and everything. He came out to California. He's a good worker, very good, but he's really wasting his time. His fiancée ended up breaking up with him because she could see that he was wasting his time. I pushed for the guy. I thought it would, give him a jolt of excitement if I got him a booking with UWA. So I pushed for him to get a booking with UWA. They loved him. They said, man, what a great talent. We can't use him anymore because of his body, but this guy can work. Tell him if he just builds his body, we'd be happy to bring him back. And you know what he's done? Zilch. He's done nothing for his body. He eats more Jumbo Jacks today than he did 3 months ago. He's doubled his beer regimen. I mean, he is just a lazy individual. If I could say lazy all day long, I'd sit here and just say lazy. It makes me that upset, that I went out of my way to try to give a guy a break. And he shows me the appreciation by going out partying, getting drunk, and eating Jumbo Jacks.
Brian, anything you want to add? Being in the indie scene yourself.
I mean, I see the same thing all the time. I mean, even if you could at least tan, you could at least get a membership.
Get a new haircut, something.
Shave your body.
Yeah.
Maybe not the whole body if it freaks you out, but there's a million things you can do.
Something too, and a lot of these guys haven't been back into a WWF locker room, but when you walk back there and you see these guys, I mean, there isn't a guy, there might be, one or two, like a Mick Foley, but there's not a guy with a bad body. And if he has a little bit of a belly, he's got huge arms. There's always something, and it's a real wake-up call. I remember the first time I walked back there, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I just laughed, and I said, man, I don't have a chance. I've got to work hard. And that's all you can do is work as hard as you can and hope that, it pays off. But, it might not pay off. But you got to at least try. You got to at least give it 100%.
Yeah, in fact, not too long ago, a couple months back, I grabbed a WWF magazine and I went to one of the APW training nights, and I pulled all the guys aside and I said, I dare you guys to find a guy in this magazine that looks like any of you. And I was directing that at Jardy France, Vinny Massaro, Mayock, another guy up there, Mike Phillips, and another guy, Bison Smith, who just recently, all of a sudden, it clicked in his head that, hey, I've got to get a body, and now all of a sudden he's looking really, really good. He was already a big guy, but he had a big gut to go with it. Now he's shrunk down the gut, and he's working really hard. These other guys, they looked at it, they got my point, but they didn't do anything with it. They're still just sitting on their butts at home playing pro wrestler. Big time pro wrestler. Hey, I get to go work an indie date, and then afterwards I'll go out and get drunk, and maybe I'll get lucky and, get some rat.
One thing, too, and I'm going to bring this up real quick. Like, when I met Barry Horowitz in Canada in September, and I just saw, I watched Barry, and I watched how seriously he took wrestling, and not even being in the big leagues right now, and just being independent. He woke up, he went to the gym, he came to my door, woke me up. We had a protein shake. He takes it so seriously.
He's a true professional.
He is a true professional. And I'm thinking, this guy's 39 years old. He's been wrestling for 19 years, and he still takes it seriously. And you got to respect that. And that's the way. Right when I met Barry, that's the way I evolved into be. I want to be. Barry's like a role model for me, like the same as Mike. Mike Monis is a big role model for me too.
I got to disagree with you though. There's no way Barry's 39. I think he's closer to 33, 32, or something like that.
No.
Hey, Barry, I'm not here. I'm not here pulling for you, Barry.
He's been around for about a good 20 years.
A guy like that to turn everything around,
Yeah, and I'm just trying to give Barry a push.
Yeah, it does, Brian.
Just working with one particular guy, if you, like some of those guys that are, they've had maybe 10, 15 matches, just one match with a veteran, you just learn everything.
Yeah.
Exactly. You see the way they conduct themselves outside the ring is a big thing, I've seen guys, up in that tour in Canada, there were a few names up there, and after the matches they go out and party and do who knows what, and, that's not Barry, and that's not me, and that's not taking it seriously,
In fact, my first pro match was against Coco Beware at the Saleland Arena here in California, and I think I learned more. People always ask me, what's your most memorable moment? What's your favorite moment in your career? Was it WCW, the almost contract, or was it WWF, the big tryout? No, none of those. My most memorable and I think the most influential moment in my pro wrestling career was my match against Coco Beware. I went out there and he, I went like 5 or 6 minutes with him, and I learned so much just in that one match. He probably doesn't even remember me. I was 18 years old at the time, but I really learned so much from him, and he really is the one that turned around my career. He was the one that made me decide, hey, wait a minute, I don't want to be a WWF jobber that just comes in every once in a while and gets squashed by a guy. I want to do this for a living, and so that's what got me trying to work on my body and everything.
Was there anything in particular? Now, you guys had, I guess, what would be a pseudo WCW tryout match when you guys wrestled each other, and what was that in? I was at the show.
Arco. That was an Arco.
No. I don't mean the actual tryout. I mean the 25-minute match that you guys had. Really hot match that we had earlier this year.
San Leandro. Yeah.
The San Leandro match.
Jim Barnett was there.
When Jim Barnett was there, exactly. Were you guys nervous at all, knowing that Jim Barnett was there, or?
No, it was really funny because Jim had come to look at me and Tony Jones and everything, and it was funny because he saw me do a training class that night, and the next morning before the match, which he came to see, he told me that he had already called Kevin Sullivan. He already suggested that they hire me. He didn't even see me work. All he saw was me train guys, and he was so impressed. So I already kind of had a lot of that nervousness already taken care of, and I had already talked to Kevin, already knew that I was going out to Orlando to work for WCW. And so I wasn't really that nervous.
Yeah, it kind of took the nervousness off the match, yeah.
And it was a great match. We went like 25 minutes, and too bad the crowd was more into the women.
I know.
Those damned women in this pro wrestling business.
We got to go to Matt in Vancouver. Matt, what's going on?
Hey, how are you guys doing today?
Hey,
really good.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
How after your WCW appearance and your appearance on Beyond the Mat, have you got more money for your bookings?
Well,
like,
I got a job with.
Has it gone up?
I got a job with UWA, and I'm being paid very well, and it's a great company, and so yeah, I'm very, very happy. In fact, it's funny, things always happen for a reason, and when the WCW contract never came to be, it actually ended up being a great thing for me. It was really a blessing in disguise, because the company's having some rough times right now, and it would probably have been a bad time for me to be there. And I still talk to people from WCW, and I have no ill feelings towards the company at all. In fact, I hope to see them turn around real soon.
Who were the workers that you grew up looking up to, saying that you put your style to?
Ray Stevens was very influential. I was a big Ray Stevens fan. I liked Lonnie Main, Moondog Main, a lot, although I don't wrestle like him at all. I was a big Lonnie Main fan. Also Rocky Johnson. I liked Pepper Gomez. A lot of the guys that wrestled for Big Time Wrestling, Roy Shire's promotion out in San Francisco. Also guys like Roddy Piper and Jimmy Snuka too.
Have you?
How old were you? How old were you, Mike, when you started going to wrestling or started watching wrestling?
When I started watching wrestling, I was about probably 3 or 4 years old.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And I watched it with my uncle, and I used to pick up the pillows and act like they were chairs and smack them with them. And then I stopped watching it. My parents never liked it at all, and I stopped watching it for a couple of years. And as soon as Vince went nationwide and everything, and all of a sudden he was on my cable channel, I watched and became a diehard fan. I watched world-class repeats on ESPN over and over again. I knew every spot by heart.
Of every match.
Yeah, of every match. And Global and old AWA tapes, and anything that I could get my hands on, I was more than happy. And I'm still that way. I try to get as many tapes from Japan as I possibly can, because if you ask me, that's really where the talent is today. Is in Japan.
It's different though, because the politics and everything. Supporting Japan in the last couple of months just hasn't been as much fun as maybe three years ago when it was awesome.
Yeah, they're having a lot of problems over there. It's too bad.
Matt, anything else?
Mike, would you ever want to be booked in Japan for any of the indies or All Japan or New Japan?
Yeah, I'd love to work. Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. I'd love to work for especially All Japan. In fact, I came real close to working over there. Wally Yamaguchi was running a show, and very, very nice man. I spoke with him on the phone, and I was supposed to go over there, and that's when I blew out my knee, and I've been out for 3 months since that happened. So I was really, really disappointed, because it's always really been my dream is to go to Japan, and then I got my big opportunity, and my knee prevented it from happening.
Dave?
Yes?
That Mark Mann situation, that he really didn't shake DDP's hand, is that true?
Yes, that whole story is true, yeah.
And Scott Steiner really punched DDP in the face without shoot?
Scott Steiner didn't punch DDP in the face. He kind of bear hugged him and took him down and scratched his face up. He may have thrown one punch. I don't know, but he had him down and they couldn't pull him off. Was basically what happened.
So it's not a work? Are you sure?
I can't tell you anything for sure. People who are there that usually can see through that stuff when they do those fake. Whatever the word is, those work shoots, they think that this one was real. We're totally out of time.
Okay,
I want to apologize for everyone for all the technical problems on the show. And anyway, we will see you tomorrow at 6.
That magic spot or that magic gimmick, I think I would have an opportunity. It's just a matter of where it comes up first.
Who's coming out there today from the WWF? Is it Pritchard?
I'm not sure if anyone from the WWF is going to be here in terms of a management position. The reason that the Hardys are here today is because they'll be shooting a commercial tomorrow in Big Bear. So I think it was just a good situation schedule-wise for the Hardys to be here for UPW.
Mm-hmm.
But usually when someone comes out, it's usually Bruce Pritchard.
What do you think as far as the wrestlers here that people aren't so familiar with? Who are the best guys in UPW?
Well, first of all, the best guy that came straight out of UPW is definitely the prototype. His body is phenomenal. His mind is getting there. He's brand new, but he knows he's brand new, and he's working on everything all the time. And you can see the improvement of him from when he first started to where he's at today. And I think in a year, maybe 2 years, people are going to know who the prototype is. Other guys, Frankie Kazarian, Smooth Billy D. Outlaw Mike Knox. These guys are all very good wrestlers, and I think the more that they get a chance to work in front of these types of crowds and in front of the eyes of the WWF, I think a lot more people are going to be coming out of UPW and getting onto the WWF.
What's the difference as far as wrestling in a dinner theater like this one as compared to a more normal wrestling setting?
Well, the big thing is that it's not people on all four sides, so you have to kind of be conscious of where the crowd is as to where you do your stuff. The way we've set up for television too, the hard cam is kind of off to the side, so it kind of makes it a little bit awkward in terms of who you're playing for. You want to remember you're playing here for television rather than just for the audience here. Plus, you gotta have a really live crowd. You gotta have a crowd that wants to get into it because we're such a small building. We can only get a certain amount of people, and so if you get a full house, but it's a lackadaisical house or a lackluster house, it doesn't sound very good. But if you can get 200 people in this place and it's a live 200 people, it sounds like 1,000. So,
what's been your experience as far as how many times have you wrestled in this building now?
I'd have to say somewhere between 6 and 10. I did a couple shows here earlier, and then after my WCW.
We're going to go and talk to Christopher Daniels. Chris.
Hello.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
Put the headsets on.
Oh, here we go.
Okay. See if the levels are good, because it's kind of distracting.
Okay. I don't hear anything.
Can you hear me?
There we go.
Okay. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
What have you been doing since the last time we talked, as far as where you've been wrestling and things like that?
Since the last time we talked, I did the Battle at the Bob show for ECWA for Jim Kettner, where I wrestled Reckless Youth, and I've been doing some shows for APW, tagging with Mike Modest and wrestling Donovan Morgan.
What was your thoughts on the tag team matches? We heard a lot about the tag match with Thompson and LeGrand on the weekend.
Right.
What were your feelings of that match?
I thought it was great. I had a good time. It was good that Mike Modest came back from his knee injury. And Robert Thompson and Boyce LeGrand are one of the best tag teams in the sport right now. And just to go on there and put 33 minutes in the ring in front of a good crowd like that, I had a great time.
Any plans to go back to Japan?
It's in the works. I spoke to them and told them I was available. Whether they want me or not, it's up to them.
And he talks about for a different company besides Michinoku.
I sent my tapes over to Wale Yamaguchi in the interest of All Japan. It just depends now on whether they want to get a new face over in All Japan or not.
It's kind of interesting with All Japan because I think one of the things with the Japanese is the foreigners that have gone, it's always the same ones time after time, and I think it's probably time for them to freshen things up.
Yeah, I'd love to be one of the new faces over there. I don't know how much All Japan, I'm not really familiar with All Japan's and their use of the cruiserweights, so I couldn't tell you if I would have a place in All Japan or not, but I'd certainly love to get a shot to go over there.
Would you rather go as Christopher Daniels or Curryman again?
I think if I were to go to All Japan, I would have to go as Christopher Daniels, only because Curryman is a Michinoku product. But either way, I'd be happy with.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had any thoughts as far as or any talks with WWF or even WCW lately?
Yeah, I keep both my options open. I've been talking to Terry Taylor and Ricky Santana, and I've also been talking to Bruce Pritchard and Kevin Kelly. And I think right now the consensus is as soon as a spot were to open up,
good.
Hey,
good to hear from you guys. My question is for Mr. Daniels, and it's kind of a general commentary on how things work on the smaller circuits. By the way, I think it's great that you guys are doing a webcast from the UPW for tonight's big show. It validates the efforts of a lot of these small groups and helps keep the talent flowing and developing. My question, Chris, is if you were to take dates outside of UPW, okay, I don't know if you are or not, but if you were, okay, and you have maybe you're negotiating with 5 or 6 different groups for 5 or 6 different dates, is there a lot of back and forth in terms of what you're asking for in money and what they offer, and is it tough to coordinate doing all that yourself, or do you have somebody handle your business affairs?
No, I handled it all on my own, and I've been very fortunate that I've rarely had any dates like coincided with each other. Most of the federations kind of actually keep an eye on what they're all doing. So, and they get a hold of me far ahead enough of time so that if something were to come up, I'm already booked for one thing or another. At least I've got that kind of freedom, that kind of leeway to be able to say, well, you know what, I'm already booked for this show, maybe the next time. So, like I said, I've been lucky where I haven't had too many dates like landing on top of each other.
Now, do you find is the pace generally standard for you to work for one group as opposed to another, or is there a lot of back and forth, give and take type of for negotiation?
No, it's been pretty. Like I set my price, and most people have met it, so it's not been a lot of things where we've been negotiating back and forth, and I've been on television, and they've been, but we're broke, nothing like that. It's just been a matter of I set the price, and I think it's a pretty fair price. They definitely get their money's worth. I don't go out and dog it. I go out there and bust my ass every time, no matter what federation, no matter who I'm wrestling, no matter how many people are in the audience. I always go out there and try and have the best match that I'm capable of having. And for the price that I ask, I think that's a heck of a deal for any promoter who's offered.
And that's great. It helps enhance your reputation. Thank you for taking my question. Dave, Brian, great show. Keep up the good work.
Thanks very much.
Take care.
No, you're talking about your schedule and everything. Do you pretty consistently get a certain number of dates a month, and how many would that be, or some months do you get like 1, and the next month you get 10, or how's it all work? Or how does it seem to break down?
It actually does kind of break down where some months are better than others. Like this October, I had 14 matches, and there was a spell where I was working every other day. But that was because WCW was in town, WWF was in town. I had a trip to England. So all that just kind of coincided at the same time. Whereas like this December, I've only had 3 dates. I had the date last Saturday for APW. I've got tonight. And then the end of the year, December 30th, is the King of the Indies tournament that APW is running. December being a slow month because of the holidays. Some months are slower than others, but, most of the time it kind of averages out to about once or twice a week for me.
Now, and you put all that up on your website, right? The schedule?
I try to keep that up to date. I don't do my own website personally. I have a guy who does it for me, and just his own time constraints, whether I'm completely up to date or I'm behind a little bit. I try and keep it up to date, though.
Give the address of the website.
www.christopherdaniels.com.
Okay. Now, are you doing this full time, or are you doing anything else to supplement your income? And optimally, how many dates would you want to be working right now?
I'd love to be working 3 dates a week. Right now, this is all I'm doing. I've been a professional wrestler only for about 1.5 years now, and I like it this way. It helps me focus on working out, training, all the things that I need to do to be ready for any dates. But I would like to be doing 3 dates a week if I could, but right now it kind of averages out to one or two.
And injury-wise, how do you feel right now?
Great. I've been very lucky injury-wise in my whole career. The only injury that I had was a groin pull that I suffered in February in Japan, and even for that I recovered much quicker than I thought I was going to. So knock on wood, I've been very fortunate.
Mm-hmm. Brian, anything?
That's pretty much it.
Okay.
You got the I think I emailed you about this. The best foreign wrestler for Michinoku Pro, Curry Man.
Yeah, you did tell me about that. You were the first person that told me about that. That was a neat little thing, especially since I haven't been there for 9 months. But that was quite an honor. Those guys have been very good to me, and hopefully in the future I'll get a chance to go back out there and don the ugly yellow outfit again.
I guess someone emailed us, and I guess it's up on WF.com that Road Dogg has been suspended.
He has been suspended?
Yeah, they said for, what was the term? Undisclosed.
Thing. I came back here more full time. So I have to say somewhere between 6 and 10.
Have you ever wrestled a single match with Tom Howard before?
No, I never have. I worked a 3-way with him and Mad Dog Mike Bell a couple months ago, but Tom Howard and I have never wrestled in a singles match.
Any thoughts on it, or?
I think it's going to be a great match. I think Tom Howard is a heck of a talent. I think that just for unfortunate circumstances, timing-wise and scheduling-wise, he should have been in the WWF a long time ago. And I think the whole idea with him being part of Gangrel's gimmick, as I know the idea was supposed to be, that would have been something that when Gangrel was hot would have been something great for Tom. But like I said, scheduling conflicts and just circumstances being what they are, I think the WWF kind of missed the boat on that. And right now, but their loss right now is UPW's main. So I think it's going to be a great match. I think Tom's a good talent, and we're definitely going to put on a good show for these guys tonight.
Now, what's his status right now? Because there was talk that, or I guess he first had the contract, then he did, and then he did, and what's it like right now?
I couldn't really comment with any intelligence on that right now. The last thing I heard was that they were interested in him again, but I'm not sure from there where it went.
I don't think I actually just talked to him. I don't think that he's under contract right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he was a year ago, I guess, or whatever it was, when he was doing all the TV tapings and everything.
And I think with his level of involvement in UPW, it's just as easy to get back under contract with WWF. He's right under their noses. He's putting out good wrestling matches. So if the opportunity were to arise again for them to use him, I think definitely that he'd be right here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is actually the first television taping that these guys have wrestled, and for most of the wrestlers here, it's going to be something new. But you mentioned that they're kind of used to time constraints already.
Yeah, that's right. The whole idea from the very beginning was at some point we were going to do television. So Rick Bassman and the rest of the backstage guys always were trying to hammer it home that we needed to be right on time. We needed to have it pretty close to where we needed as far as time constraints. So this is the first time where it's really mattered, but we've always been under the gun as far as trying to keep our time at a certain level in the ring.
We've got one phone call. We're going to go to Mark. Mark, what's going on?
How you doing, Dave? How's everything? Brian, how are you?